Have you ever noticed how much of your stress comes from things that are not even yours? A rude comment, an unfinished past, a fear about tomorrow. You tell yourself it is urgent, that it matters, that if you just think about it long enough, maybe you will find peace. But the truth? Most of what consumes you has nothing to do with your control and everything to do with your attention. You are not tired because you worked too hard. You are tired because you are carrying what was never yours to begin with. And this episode it is for that kind of exhaustion. The silent kind. The kind that builds when your mind is busy managing the world outside instead of mastering the one inside. Because that is where Stoicism begins, not in controlling others, but in reclaiming yourself. If you stay with me through this journey, you will not only learn how to let go of what drains you, you will discover a new kind of power. A power built not on domination, but on clarity. You will walk away with the mindset and tools to stop reacting to life and start responding with calm, purpose, and discipline. And by the end, you will realize the only real control you ever needed was over yourself. Let us begin here with a truth the Stoics knew before science ever proved it. The more you chase what is outside your control, the more peace you forfeit. It sounds simple, but look around. You are not just reacting to events. You are reacting to your judgment about those events. You are not just mad because they ignored you, you are hurt because you assumed why. You are not just stressed because something failed, you are spiraling because you attach that outcome to your identity. That is not life doing that to you. That is your interpretation. Epictetus said it best, it is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. And until you see that, you will always be at the mercy of what happens. But once you see it, once you realize your mind is the source of the chaos, everything changes. You no longer waste energy controlling traffic, people, plans, the past. You start investing that energy in what is yours, your breath, your words, your next step. That is where your life shifts. That is where real power lies. And it starts with one practice: the pause. That sacred second between what happens and what you choose to do next. Because control is not about making things go your way. It is about choosing your way, even when life does not cooperate. It is choosing to breathe in traffic. Choosing to listen instead of defend. Choosing to stay grounded when your pride wants to erupt. That is not passivity. That is strength of the rarest kind. And that kind of strength? It is trained, not inherited. You do not wake up emotionally free. You build that freedom decision by decision. And you can start today. Imagine waking up tomorrow with a filter in your mind. A filter that clearly, automatically separates the world into two buckets: what you can control and what you cannot. Nothing in between. No gray zones. No maybe. Just this mine and not mine. And then imagine making a decision to only care, only spend energy, only carry weight for the first bucket. That one change would set you free. Because right now, most of your suffering comes from confusing the two. You try to control how people see you. You try to control how fast they respond, how kindly they speak, how accurately they understand. You try to control the outcome of things you can only influence. And every time life reminds you that you are not in control, you break. You spiral. You take it personally. But it is not personal. It is just the truth. The Stoics built their entire emotional structure on this first principle: control is a boundary. And sanity lives inside that boundary. Epictetus called it the dichotomy of control. A fancy term for a simple idea: some things are up to you, and some things are not. Your actions, yours. Your opinions, yours. Your focus, yours. But everything else, the weather, the markets, other people's behavior, the past, the future, that belongs to fate. And when you treat what belongs to fate like it belongs to you, you create unnecessary pain. That is the madness of trying to manage the unmanageable. And that is exactly what the modern world trains us to do. We are taught to control perception, to curate, to posture, to plan obsessively. We are told that with the right mindset, we can manifest anything. But the Stoic asks a deeper question. What if the goal is not to get what you want, but to remain free no matter what happens? Because let us be honest, the world is not predictable. People will change. Plans will collapse. Timelines will shift. If your peace is tied to any of those things, you are a hostage. And Stoicism is about walking out of that prison. So how do you practice this? Start with language. Replace "I need this to happen" with "I will do my part." Replace "they should not have done that" with "that was their choice, not mine to carry." Replace "I hope this goes well" with "I will meet this moment well, no matter how it goes." This language shift is not semantics. It is sovereignty. Because the more you identify what is yours, the more power you have to shape it. And the more you let go of what is not yours, the more peace returns. It is simple. It is not easy. Because your ego will protest. Your fear will beg. Your emotions will say, "Just this one time, let us try to control the uncontrollable." But you know better now. You know that discipline is not just about pushing hard. It is about knowing where to push. It is about focusing your strength where it can actually do something. And that means letting go not of care, but of control. You can still care deeply. You can still try wholeheartedly. But you do not get to grip. You do not get to demand. You do not get to force your way into outcomes you cannot own. That is not power. That is panic. And you are done living that way. From now on, your energy goes into what is yours. Your breath. Your choices. Your tone. Your time. Your thoughts. Your standards. And everything else? You release it. Not because it does not matter, but because it does not belong to you. And when you do this consistently, quietly, without fanfare, you begin to feel something new. Not motivation, not excitement, but relief. Relief from the pressure of pretending to be God. Relief from the illusion that your job is to fix everything, please everyone, predict the future. Your job is simpler than that. Your job is to master what you can, to let go of what you cannot, and to know deep in your bones that this one decision makes you stronger than 99% of the world still trying to micromanage the impossible. That is real control. That is Stoic clarity. And it begins right now with your next breath. So now you know. You cannot control everything. You never could. But there is one thing, one sacred, inviolable space that always belongs to you, your response. Your judgment. Your tone. Your inner framing. And that space. That is where your real power lies. Because everything that happens to you is neutral until you respond. Let that settle for a moment. You get a message that hurts. Someone cuts you off. You are passed over for something you worked for. These events, they are facts, data. But your reaction, that is meaning. That is where suffering or strength begins. Epictetus said men are disturbed not by events but by their opinions about them. And the Stoics trained relentlessly not to feel nothing, but to respond wisely. They believed emotional mastery was not the denial of feeling, but the redirection of it. And that redirection? It begins with awareness. Can you catch the gap between stimulus and response? Can you notice the split-second moment when your body wants to lash out but your mind steps in? That moment is the gateway. Miss it and you will react. Catch it and you will respond. That is the difference between chaos and clarity. Between saying something you regret and speaking something that builds. Between spiraling and standing still. So how do you train this? You start with the breath. Yes, the breath. Because before the mind can think clearly, the body must calm down. The Stoics practice this in different ways: cold exposure, silence, fasting, intentional discomfort. Not because they enjoyed pain, but because they wanted to strengthen their pause. To delay gratification, to delay explosion, to delay the loss of control. So in your moment of tension, breathe. Do not fix. Do not respond. Do not explain. Just breathe. Then ask the first Stoic question: is this in my control? Most of the time, the answer will be no. You cannot control their tone. You cannot control the past. You cannot control the outcome. So let that go. Then ask the second question: what is my responsibility here? That is your new center. Maybe it is to hold your boundaries. Maybe it is to clarify, not defend. Maybe it is to walk away instead of escalate. That answer? That is your power. Now act on that, not your emotion, but your intention. And with that one shift, you begin to rewrite your nervous system. You stop being a puppet of your mood. You become the architect of your reaction. And over time, this becomes your identity. You are no longer the one who explodes. You are the one who chooses. You are no longer the one who spirals. You are the one who observes. That does not mean you are cold. It means you are clear. Because now your emotion serves you. It becomes information, not instruction. You feel anger and you ask, what value of mine feels violated? You feel sadness and you ask, what am I attached to that is no longer here? You feel fear and you ask, is this real or imagined? And then you move not from pain, but from presence. That is Stoic alchemy. Not turning stone into gold, but turning reactivity into response. And this practice, it is not occasional. It is daily. Because every day, life will offer you new reasons to lose yourself. Someone will misunderstand you. Something will fall apart. Some plan will not unfold the way you hoped. But none of that has to control you. Because you now live in the space between what happens and how you choose to respond. And in that space you are free. There is a moment in every day, a moment so small, most people miss it. I comment. A glance. I delay. A misunderstanding. And in that moment, you have a choice. To get pulled in or to remain grounded. To be owned by the emotion or to observe it. To explode or to exhale. That moment is where the Stoic lives. Because calmness is not a personality trait. It is a trained response. You are not born calm. You become calm by choosing it, again and again, especially when it is hardest. The Stoics knew that the real enemy of peace is not chaos, but emotional reactivity. Because chaos outside you cannot touch you until it finds chaos within. You cannot control who interrupts you. But you can control whether you interrupt yourself. You cannot control who challenges you. But you can control whether you abandon your values to meet them at their level. This is the essence of Stoic calm: to refuse to be dragged. To say, I will not lower myself, not because I am better than you, but because I have made a vow to protect my center. And that center? It is not weakness. It is power. Because in a world trained to flinch, to fight, to defend, to react, stillness is rebellion. And you? You are choosing that rebellion. You are choosing to lead your emotions instead of being led by them. That means learning to witness. To notice the rise of anger, but not merge with it. To feel the sting of disrespect, but not identify with it. To hear the urge to prove, defend, win, but let it pass. Because none of those impulses are you. They are just weather. And you? You are the sky. The Stoics practice this not just in theory, but through micro-minus decisions. Seneca walked slowly when anxious to slow his mind through his body. Marcus Aurelius journaled before battle, not to prepare tactics, but to calm his spirit. Epictetus reminded himself daily you are an actor in a play. The role is not yours to choose, but how well you play it, that is yours. This is why your calmness must be practiced, not just hoped for. You do not wait for life to become peaceful. You become peaceful. You do not hope people stop testing you. You train for the test. And the training? It happens now. When someone cuts in line. When the meeting runs long. When the message is read but not replied to. These are not trivial moments. These are reps. Moments to train restraint. To train clarity. To train presence. Because you are not just trying to survive the world. You are trying to lead yourself through it. And that leadership is not measured in words, it is measured in what you do not say. In what you do not react to. In how long you can hold your center when everything around you invites you to abandon it. So, let us ask, what does calmness look like in real life? It looks like choosing silence over sarcasm. It looks like taking a walk instead of sending the angry reply. It looks like saying, "Let me think about it," instead of being pressured to answer now. It looks like knowing the storm is real, but knowing you do not have to become it. And in doing this, you begin to build something sacred. Not a mask, not suppression, but mastery. Because now, you are not hiding your emotion. You are directing it. You are saying, "Yes, I feel, but I choose my next move." That kind of choice, it is what makes you unstoppable. Because while the rest of the world is busy reacting, you are building a kind of peace that no one can touch. A calm that does not depend on others behaving. A stillness that does not break when plans do. And that calm, it becomes your power. It becomes your signature. It becomes the space where your clearest decisions are made and your strongest identity is formed. Acceptance. The word feels soft, almost passive. But in the eyes of the Stoic, it is one of the most powerful actions you can take. Because acceptance is not giving up. It is waking up. It is saying, "This is how it is. And now that I see it clearly, I can finally act wisely." Most people do not accept reality. They fight it. They negotiate with it. They delay it with hope. But hope, when ungrounded, becomes fantasy. And fantasy becomes suffering. Why? Because reality never loses. You can deny it. You can distract yourself. But eventually, it comes knocking. And when it does, most people are unprepared because they spent their energy arguing with what is, instead of acting with what is true. The Stoics were fierce about this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Objective judgment now, at this very moment. Unselfish action now, at this very moment. Willing acceptance now, at this very moment of all external events. Not later. Not when things feel fair. Not when your feelings agree. No. This is where inner strength begins, the refusal to flinch when life tells the truth. The truth that someone you love may not change. That some opportunities will not return. That some questions will never be answered. That some dreams must die for your real purpose to live. But none of that truth can destroy you unless you resist it. Because the pain is not in what happened. It is in the gap between what is and what you believe should have been. That gap? That is where despair lies. And the Stoic closes that gap not by lowering their standards, but by removing their illusions. They stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What now?" That shift, subtle, quiet, grounded, is liberation. It means you stop needing the universe to cooperate with your preferences. You begin to meet it on its terms. And in doing so, you stop suffering over the uncontrollable. You start acting within your zone of influence. That is the Stoic formula: perception, acceptance, action, and each one reinforces the next. You see clearly. You accept fully. You act wisely. So how do you practice acceptance in real life? Start small. Miss the train. Accept it before you dramatize it. Got rejected? Accept it before you internalize it. Felt misunderstood? Accept it before you attack it. This does not mean apathy. It means you let go of the fight so you can use that energy to move forward. Because resistance consumes what action could use. And most people stay stuck in loops, not because they lack power, but because they keep demanding the moment be something it is not. They want different timing, a different person, a different outcome. But the Stoic does not wish. He witnesses. He lets reality arrive as it is. And then, he moves with it, not against it. Because wisdom does not fight the river. Wisdom learns to navigate its current. And yes, it will hurt sometimes. It will stretch you. It will force you to grieve a version of life that could have been. But once you stop resisting, you realize this moment may not be what I wanted, but it is the only place my power exists. And from that place you begin to respond. You say, if this is where I am, what does strength look like here? You say, if this is what I have, how do I use it fully? You say, if this is the truth, then I choose to meet it with truth. That is the quiet power of acceptance. It is not flashy. It does not scream. But it rebuilds your mind from the ground up. It replaces fantasy with focus, reaction with clarity. And in that clarity you begin to create again. Not the world you wish for, but the one you are strong enough now to build. The past is heavy. Not because it exists now, but because we keep carrying it. Over and over. In our thoughts, our stories, our reactions. Someone hurt you. You hurt yourself. A decision went wrong. A door closed. And ever since, part of you has been trying to undo it. Rehearsing the memory. Replaying the words. Imagining a version where it all went differently. But the Stoics had no patience for this. Not because they lacked emotion, but because they refused to waste life. What is past, Marcus Aurelius said, is as if it had never been. Let that sink in, as if it had never been. Not because it does not matter, but because you do not get to live it again. And if you cannot live it again, why keep living in it? The Stoics were clear your energy belongs here, in the present, because this is the only place where your action lives. Your power lives. Your next decision lives. And every second you spend feeding the past is a second you steal from your future. But here is the deeper truth. You are not haunted by the past itself. You are haunted by your attachment to how it should have gone. You think if you revisit it enough, you can fix it. You think if you keep the memory alive, you are protecting yourself from repeating the same mistake. But you are not protecting yourself. You are punishing yourself. And punishment is not transformation. It is paralysis. So what do? You begin by honoring what happened. Not hiding it. Not pretending it was okay. But simply saying, yes, that happened. And then you ask the one Stoic question that turns pain into purpose. What is mine to do now? Not then. Not what if. But now. Because now is the only place you can make a different choice. Now is the only place you can live the lesson, not just remember it. Now is the only place you can take your scars and turn them into standards. So do that. If you were betrayed, build a new kind of honesty. If you betrayed, build a new kind of integrity. If you were passive, build a new kind of presence. That is how you honor your past, not by returning to it, but by responding to it, here, through your current actions. The Stoics did not chase justice in hindsight. They created justice in how they lived going forward. They did not rewrite the past. They rewrote their character. And that, friend, is your power too. Because the past is a weight only when you believe it still defines you. But what if it is not who you are? What if it is only a mirror? A mirror that showed you what happens when you are not aligned. What happens when you abandon your principles? What happens when you live asleep? Good. Now you are awake. Now you are here. Now you have the gift most people never receive: awareness through experience. So use it. Not to regret harder. To live wiser. And when the old thoughts come back, because they will breathe, remind yourself that chapter is closed. This page is blank. I get to write it now. You do not owe anyone a performance of pain. You only owe your future the version of you that refuses to waste another minute living backward. You are not who you were. You are who you choose to be today. So return to today. Often. Silently. Strongly. Because this moment is yours. And you are done trading it for something that no longer is. The future is one of the greatest sources of anxiety for the modern mind. Not because we know what is coming, but because we do not. And in the absence of certainty, the imagination fills in the gaps. What if it goes wrong? What if I fail? What if they leave? What if I am not enough when the moment arrives? And just like that, you are no longer here. You are living in 1,000 possible versions of what if. And losing your grip on the only thing that is real: this breath, this step, this choice. The Stoics did not ignore the future. They simply refused to be ruled by it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason, which today arm you against the present." That is a different kind of strength. Not one that pretends the future does not matter, but one that trusts your future will be shaped by the quality of your present mindset. Because let us be clear, the future is not out there. It is being built right now through your habits, your attitude, your decisions. And that means you have power. Not in prediction, but in preparation. Not in controlling outcomes, but in cultivating readiness. This is why the Stoics practiced a discipline called premedit ideo malo, the premeditation of adversity. They did not fear what could go wrong. They visualized it. Not to dwell in fear, but to remind themselves, even if this happens, I will not be broken. They imagine loss, rejection, discomfort, betrayal, not to feel defeated, but to build fortitude. Because the truth is, what you fear most about the future is not the event. It is the idea that you will not be able to handle it. But if you train for that moment mentally, emotionally, spiritually, then even if it comes, you are not a victim. You are ready. So how do you practice this? Start by getting honest about your fear. Write it down. Say it aloud. Bring it from the fog into the light. What am I afraid might happen? Then ask, if that happens, what would I do? Not what would I feel. You will feel fear, sadness, uncertainty. That is normal. But what would I do in alignment with who I want to be? Would I breathe? Would I ask for help? Would I move slowly and carefully? Would I stay calm so I can choose wisely? This question moves you from panic to planning, from helplessness to response. You stop waiting for courage to arrive and you build it in advance. And here is what you will discover. Most of what you fear is survivable. Most of what you dread is shapeable if you meet it with presence. And presence is trained now. Not in the crisis. Not in the breakdown. But in the quiet, boring, repetitive moments you have each day to ground yourself in calm. So when your mind wanders forward, when it spirals into worst minus case futures, breathe. Remind yourself, right now I am safe. And if that fear does become real, then I will meet it with the same strength I am cultivating right now. You are not powerless against the future. You simply need to stop trying to control the uncertain and start mastering the certain. Your breath, your focus, your choices, your perspective. And when you do this consistently, the future no longer feels like a threat. It becomes something else entirely. a test of everything you have trained to become. And you? You are training well. Because each time you return to presence, you rewrite your story. You go from "I am afraid of what might happen" to "I am becoming someone who can handle whatever happens." That is not delusion. That is discipline. That is Stoic preparation. And that is what turns fear into fuel. We spend much of our lives trying to manage the world around us. We want people to behave. We want plans to unfold smoothly. We want traffic to move faster, the email to come sooner, the answer to be clearer. But if we are honest, most of that is not under our control. And the more we focus on it, the more frustrated we become. The Stoics saw this long before smartphones and algorithms and modern anxiety. They saw how the mind becomes disturbed not by life itself, but by what the mind believes life should be. And their solution: stop trying to change the world and start training yourself. Because if you can master your own inner response, then no outer change is needed for you to experience peace. That is not complacency. That is sovereignty. It means you stop outsourcing your emotional well-minded being to random events. You stop saying, "If they just said sorry, if the schedule just worked out, if I just had more time." And instead you say, "What can I control in me right now, no matter what?" Because in truth, most people do not need their life to change. They need their relationship to life to change. And that begins with inner training. So what does that training look like? It looks like restraint. Not every emotion needs to be expressed. It looks like awareness. Not every thought needs to be believed. It looks like reflection. Not every story your ego tells you is worth obeying. The Stoics were not emotionalists. They were disciplined in their emotions. They felt anger but paused before acting on it. They felt fear but used it to prepare, not to retreat. They felt grief but did not let it destroy their principles. Because their goal was not just to feel better. It was to be better, especially when life was worse. And this kind of training is not reactive. It is proactive. You do not wait for the fire to learn how to breathe. You breathe now. You do not wait for betrayal to define your values. You live them now. You do not wait for crisis to decide who you are. You shape that identity now through repetition, through habit, through inner rigor. This is what the modern mind resists. It wants quick wins, hacks, instant relief. But inner mastery is slow. It is subtle. It is built in the decisions no one sees. Waking up early, pausing before speaking, letting go of gossip, returning to your breath instead of scrolling, sitting in discomfort without running from it. That is the real discipline. Not flashy, but foundational. Because in doing this daily, you become someone the world can no longer disturb so easily. Your peace becomes unavailable to external forces, not because life stopped being hard, but because you stop being manipulated by what is hard. And in that shift from control to training, you become free. You realize you were never meant to fix the world. You were meant to be the kind of person who can stand firmly in it. So when life disappoints, as it will, you are not thrown. When people let you down, as they might, you are not undone. Because your power was never in their hands. It was always yours. You had just forgotten. Now you remember. You are not here to win every moment. You are here to train through every moment. And that mindset, that is what makes you untouchable. You start doing the work. You build better habits. You choose your responses more carefully. You return to presence instead of panic. You breathe through the frustration, the noise, the pull toward reaction. And for a while you expect something to change. Not just inside you, but around you. You expect people to meet you with the same respect you give them. You expect more harmony, more ease, more recognition. But sometimes nothing changes. They still interrupt. They still misunderstand. They still live in chaos while you are fighting for peace. And it is tempting in those moments to wonder, what is the point? But the Stoics were clear: the point is not to change others. The point is to become someone unchanged by others. That is the true test of your training, not whether the world improves when you improve, but whether you can remain grounded even when it does not. Because if your peace depends on their behavior, your freedom is still in their hands. And that was never the Stoic goal. The Stoic goal was not to fix people. It was to live with integrity regardless of them. This is where emotional mastery deepens. Because when you first begin this path, it is easy to feel strong when others cooperate. But what about when they do not? What about when your calm is met with conflict? Your honesty is met with defensiveness. Your consistency is met with silence. This is where most people abandon the path. But this is where you step into a new level of self-minus command. You remember the work you are doing is not for applause. It is for alignment. And alignment means doing the right thing not because it works, but because it is who you are now. Seneca said, "A good character, when established, becomes easier to maintain than to recover." That is your goal now, not influence, not control, not praise. Just character. And character is what you fall back on when results do not come. Character is what you hold when resentment starts whispering. Character is what you protect when ego says, "Why keep giving when they do not see it?" Because you do not act for validation. You act for inner peace. And that peace is too precious to trade for momentary ego satisfaction. So when they misunderstand you, you clarify once and let it go. When they provoke you, you hold your breath and respond with clarity or silence. When they disappoint you, you grieve, but you do not abandon your discipline. Because your standard is no longer them. It is you. And your standard? It is rising. Not because the world got easier, but because you got stronger. That strength is invisible to most, but you feel it. You feel it in the space between your reaction and your choice. You feel it in your ability to sit with discomfort without lashing out. You feel it in the deep, quiet knowing that you are becoming the kind of person you once looked up to. And that knowing? That is worth every moment of being misunderstood. So when life does not applaud, you applaud yourself. When people do not recognize the inner work, recognize it anyway. You are not invisible. You are becoming indestructible. And that was always the point. There is a loneliness that comes with clarity. A distance that grows not because you push people away, but because the space between your choices and theirs begins to widen. You say no more often. You rise earlier. You speak less, but mean more. You are no longer reactive, no longer pulled by impulse. And while that brings peace, it can also bring isolation. You look around and wonder, am I the only one doing this work? You are not, but it can feel that way. Because most people do not understand what you are building. They see the outer changes, your discipline, your restraint, your calm, but they do not see the battles. They do not see the choice to breathe instead of react, to walk away instead of prove, to remain silent instead of lash out. They do not see the 1,000 internal decisions you make every day to stay you. And yet you keep making them. Because something in you knows this path, while solitary at times, is sacred. It is a different kind of life. A life not built on agreement, but on alignment. And yes, you will lose people. Not always dramatically. Sometimes quietly, slowly. Not because you rejected them, but because you stopped betraying yourself to stay close to them. That kind of departure is not loss. It is evolution. And evolution is lonely sometimes. But you are not lonely because something is wrong with you. You are lonely because something is right. You are living awake in a world that numbs. You are choosing intention in a world that reacts. You are moving with depth in a culture that skims the surface. So yes, it feels different. Because it is different. The Stoics walked this too. They knew that the more you train your mind, the less you need from the world. That kind of strength is often invisible. And because it is invisible, it is often unacknowledged. But make no mistake, it is felt. Even if they do not say it, people feel your presence, your steadiness, your groundedness. And in a world full of emotional volatility, your presence is medicine. Not flashy, not loud, but deeply, unmistakably stabilizing. That is the gift you offer now. Not by fixing others, but by not needing them to be any certain way for you to remain yourself. That is power. That is leadership. That is what makes your solitude sacred. It is not empty. It is full of the self you used to abandon to be accepted. And now that you have returned to that self, you will never trade it again. So when it gets quiet, do not panic. Do not reach for noise just to feel connected. Instead, deepen. Listen closer. Because in the silence, you will hear something most people never do. Your own inner voice, clear and calm, saying, "You are on the right path. Keep walking." And you will walk not because others join you, but because this is who you are now. Someone whose integrity is not dependent on applause. Someone whose calm is not dependent on being understood. Someone whose peace is built from within. And yes, it might be quiet here, but in that quiet you will find something no crowd can give you. Self minus respect. And once you have that, you are never truly alone. There will come a time, if it has not already, when life will shake. Not slightly, but violently. A crisis will hit. A plan will fall apart. Someone you trusted will disappoint you. A door you counted on will slam shut. And in that moment, the question will not be, why is this happening? The question will be, who are you when it does? Because this is what you have been training for. All those early mornings. All those quiet pauses. All those moments you breathed instead of broke. All those times you returned to your discipline when no one was watching. That was not just self minus help. That was preparation. Preparation for the moment when things fall apart and you do not. When people lose themselves and you stay steady. When everyone else looks around for someone to lead and your silence becomes direction. This is the essence of Stoic strength, calm in chaos. Not because you are unaffected, but because you are anchored. The world does not need more noise. It needs anchors. People who are so rooted in who they are that even when the world spins, they do not. And that kind of presence, it cannot be faked. It is earned. Earned in the thousands of micro-minus decisions you have made to stay in alignment. To speak less. To react slower. To think deeper. To return to stillness. That stillness, it becomes your superpower. Because while others are busy blaming, complaining, spinning, you are moving differently. You are watching. You are breathing. You are choosing. That is not passivity. That is leadership. And leadership does not always look like taking charge. Sometimes, it looks like being the only one not losing your mind. That kind of leadership brings others home. Not to you, but to themselves. Because when someone sees you grounded, they remember that grounding is possible. They feel the difference. Your peace becomes permission. Your poise becomes proof. Your consistency becomes comfort. And in that, you become something rare. Not just self-minus controlled, but stabilizing. The Stoics lived for this. Not for comfort. Not for safety. But to become the kind of person who could weather anything. And they did. Exile. Betrayal. Death. War. Isolation. Injustice. And still they did not let it corrupt their character. They did not let it make them small. They chose reason over rage, clarity over chaos, duty over drama. And that choice? It is available to you now. You do not have to be unshaken because life is easy. You become unshaken because life is not. And when others begin to fall, to collapse, to lash out, you are the one who remains. Not because you are cold, but because you are clear. You know who you are. You know what you value. You know what you will and will not carry. And so you carry yourself. That is Stoicism. Not standing still, but standing strong. Because now when the storm comes and it will, you are not hoping to be spared. You are simply ready, not to control the storm, but to be the fire that does not flicker in its wind. So here we are. After all the breath work, all the boundary minus setting, all the moments of self minus restraint, after returning again and again to what is in your control, to what is yours and no one else's, to the place inside you that cannot be touched by noise, by chaos, by false urgency. You are no longer who you were when you began this. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. You have become someone who no longer needs everything to go right to feel right. Someone who no longer falls apart just because things around you do. Someone who no longer lives in reaction. You respond. And that one shift, that is what changes everything. Because now you have stopped trying to control life and started choosing how to meet it. And life, it will keep happening. People will still misunderstand. Delays will still occur. Plans will still fall apart. But your center, it remains. Not because you force it to, but because you have built it. Moment by moment. Breath by breath. Habit by habit. This is not motivation. This is identity. You do not need to tell people who you are anymore. They can feel it. In your tone. In your patience. In your silence. In the way you move through a difficult conversation. In the way you pause instead of panic. In the way you speak with presence instead of rushing to prove. Because the most powerful person in the room is almost never the loudest. It is the one who needs the least from the room to remain composed. That is you now. You are no longer seeking safety in how others behave. You are no longer outsourcing your peace to the world. You have made peace an inside job. And yes, that work is quiet. Yes, that work is slow. Yes, that work is invisible to most. But you will feel it in the stillness of your own body, in the clarity of your own mind, in the way you walk into the next storm not hoping to avoid it, but ready to face it. And this readiness, it is not arrogance. It is acceptance. Acceptance of what you can control. Acceptance of what you cannot. And the deep wisdom to know the difference not just intellectually, but practically. Now you know the difference. You feel the difference. And from here forward you carry that difference into every interaction, every decision, every moment that tries to pull you away from yourself. You do not chase peace anymore. You return to it. It lies where it always has, within your control, your breath, your discipline. That is the freedom Stoicism offers. Not a freedom from pain, but a freedom from being owned by it. Not a life without challenge, but a life where challenge becomes your training ground. So take one last breath. Let it settle in. Not just the words, but the way of being they point to. You are not who you were. You are who you continue to choose to be. Now walk forward not to prove anything, but because this is who you are now. Calm, focused, free, and most of all, unshaken.